Welcome to today's edition of Mental Health Matters. Today I have Richard Gallo on the show. He's going to share his experience with mental health and how to navigate the mental health system. This is part two. Get you something to drink and get you a snack and come on back. Welcome back, Richard. Man, that was we had a very rich conversation in part one of this segment. What do you think about it?
Yes, I'm glad to share. I think it's important to share, especially for parents and their loved ones. That's why
Yes.
I'm doing this with you, Jesse.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, in part one, we left off where you started to talk about pretty much how it's not good to self-medicate with, alcohol and things like that when a
Mhm.
person is dealing with a mental health challenge. Let's pick back up on that because I do want to talk a little bit more about that, only because I think some people may feel that this is the answer or solution because it kind of what am I looking for? It serves as a temporary fix or a temporary
Mhm.
solution at that moment. But when the substance wear off, then
Right.
you're still dealing with what's going on. So why do you think that people actually need to, could you talk a little bit about it on the last segment, but why do you
hmm
think that people need to get educated on different alternatives, whether it's medication, support groups,
hmm
going for a run or walk? Why do you think it's important for them to tap into that instead of going the drug and alcohol way to deal with their mental health?
hmm you know, for substance abuse, it's their way of coping mechanism
Yeah,
to avoid the stigma, the acceptance. And I think that's part of it. And then the secondary, they think that will substitute not taking their meds. But
yeah,
that's not how it works when it
yeah,
comes with mental illness.
yeah,
So, and the other thing is, we want to reduce deaths,
yeah,
suicide, because they
yeah,
just increase dramatically when you
yeah,
have a mental illness and then you're using drugs and alcohol. It
yeah,
just have a negative impact and it hurts families when they lose a loved one due to that.
yeah, absolutely. Some Richard, some people you know um feel like some medication may be a little bit too strong for them, or they may feel
Mhm.
like it's having them to feel weird,
Right.
and they may not, their body may not be accustomed to that or being able to react to that
hmm
medication in a positive way. What would you say to people who are dealing with that when it comes to medication?
I dealt with that and still deal with that.
Okay.
The problem is all medications have side effects,
Yeah.
all, whether psychiatric or not. The thing is they have to learn to see what works for them, the
Yes.
individual, because everyone's different.
Uh-huh.
Not all medication works for everyone.
Yeah.
So, when I miss my medication, I go through the horrible withdrawal spells
Yeah.
for 3 days, three
Yeah.
days, and then go back on my medication the next day. Then I have to wait another 3 days, go through that horrible spell. My
Yeah.
wife doesn't even want to be around me during that time
Yeah.
because she sees the changes. You know, my neurologist, who I went to see her last month, she said, I asked her that question. I said, you know, I take so much medication, including for my chronic pain,
Yeah.
that sometimes I don't feel that I am myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I choose what medication I take or not. And part of the reason why I did that is I had to learn the hard way. I had a psychiatrist who was prescribing me meds and affected me differently. I wasn't aware of it at the time while I was taking it,
Yeah.
dealing with my mental health. And I made wrong choices.
Yeah.
I changed jobs.
Yeah.
Everything was last minute. I moved. I didn't realize until later that it was the damn medication that caused me to do this.
Yeah.
I stopped taking that medication
Yeah.
and went to my friends for peer support and held that off.
Yeah.
So every one of us have to make our own choices, but good choices to
Yeah.
help your mental wellness, your recovery.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And that kind of goes along with my next question. And you sound like you're on top of this, but how important is it for a person to advocate for themselves when it comes to physicians and medication and mental health providers? Because sometimes it could be the things that they're um, encouraging them to do, or suggesting that they do, or suggesting a certain medication, it just may not be a good fit for them. So why is it important
I
for them to advocate for,
yeah,
for themselves?
I agree with you. I think the key things that individuals need to teach themselves how to be a self-advocate, ask the right questions.
Yes.
And the other thing is hoping that you have a good doctor, a good psychiatrist. That's also another issue
Yeah.
because the doctor that I had when I went on my meds years later, he ended up being convicted because of issuing too much pain medication and
Wow.
lost his license.
Are you serious?
I'm serious.
Wow. Wow.
So if I have known that, I wouldn't have continued with him. I would have went elsewhere.
Wow.
So you have the right to change doctors
That's
if you're
right.
not happy with that individual. And I think a lot of consumers don't realize that they have that option.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I learned so much from, just to be transparent with you, working at Cal Voices, getting involved with rap. I'm sure you know if that is Wedding Recovery Action Plan. Like
Hmm.
I learned so much from working at this agency that I could, really outside of work, I can be a support system to people. I have believe it or not, I have several friends who are not diagnosed, but I can tell that, that they are struggling mentally. I put it like that. And so thank God I'm able to have that conversation with them. As a matter of fact, I told one of my friends about 2 months ago, I said, and I said, I will pay for you to go and see a therapist and talk to someone, because the things that's going on with him, I feel it needs profession. He needs to talk to someone professionally who does this for a living. And he
Hmm.
came to me about 2 weeks ago, and he said that he's almost to that point. The reason why he haven't accepted my offer is because of his family, his
Right.
culture, and things like that. But things are constantly happening, sporadically. And I think that he's starting to realize that, okay, I do need some help. And I have to talk to him and let him know it's okay. Like, this is your life, this is your journey. You have to close off the voices of those people who are not willing to support you through your journey, because I
Hmm.
feel like they're being selfish because of the stigma. No, this is your life. They're okay, but you clearly there's things going on that you need help with. So I can tell he's starting to get to that point, which I'm really glad about. So, but it's important for us as advocates and people who work in this field to be able to provide support verbally and give them the resources that they need that can get them back on the right track, so to speak.
Right, right. It's like my neurologist. Her response to me was, unfortunately, medication do change you. That was her response back. And
Yeah,
I was like, wow, am I glad they have you as my neurologist?
yeah,
We need more doctors like her
mhm, yeah,
to have an open dialogue, an open discussion, and allowing you to pick and choose whether you want to take that medication or not, instead of the other way, this is what you're taking.
yeah, yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the different professions, like work spaces who are not
Hmm.
necessarily in the mental health field, or law enforcement, things like that. What would you say to places that don't necessarily have the background in mental health, but they may have employees who may have been diagnosed with a mental health situation? What would you say to them? Because sometimes when you get people who may have a mental health diagnosis, who work in a field or an
Hmm.
organization that may not be educated on that, but they may want to support the person but may not know how to because of the
Right.
situation. What would you say to employers in those type of situations?
I think the important is training,
Yes,
training.
yes,
Part of the problem with law enforcement is they only get X amount trainings per year, but it's
yeah,
not enough. And a lot of these officers don't understand what it's like living with a mental illness.
yeah,
They don't understand a lot of the behaviors is associated with the mental illness.
yes,
And I see a lot of them being impatient,
yeah,
not understanding, a little harsh.
yeah.
I'm a former healthcare worker working as a mental health worker in a psychiatric 5150 unit. I did that for the past 7 years. I took a
Wow,
2 year break during COVID because
wow,
COVID was just overwhelming, and I can be affected by getting COVID because of my other disabilities.
yeah, yeah,
But training is the key thing.
yeah,
We need to go into the employers and provide those type of trainings about mental illness. The National NAMI Alliance has great publications explaining about the different mental health diagnoses,
yeah,
great fact sheets.
yeah,
Those are educational tools that they can use, the family and service providers can use as well.
yeah, absolutely. And Richard, I want to share something. So years back I interviewed for an organization, and one of the things that they asked me in my interview was, the lady, she was very transparent. She said, Jesse, we have people here, staff here that struggle with mental health. And she said, I want to know, how would you deal with something like that? Because a lot of the staff here, they just don't know how to deal with it. And she told me one of the reasons why she interviewed me, and I ended up getting this job, by the way, but one of the reasons she interviewed me because she saw this mental health stuff on my resume. So I was pretty much education training,
Right.
she asked different scenarios. I was in answer those questions. But I love the fact that she was willing to bring somebody on board that could help with the team for those who have those, sort of challenges. And
Yes.
you're right. I think more employers, law enforcement, people who don't necessarily have a background, it would be extremely helpful for them in their role to get the education and training that they need, because somewhere down the line, you're going to run across someone who has a mental health diagnosis, and you got to know how to deal with them, and you got to have the empathy and the sympathy and the compassion
Hmm.
and the the encouragement to go along with your role to be able to help them.
Right. It's like the unhoused community.
Yeah,
We have those are out there. You know, the other day I gave a guy $3
yeah,
because I knew his behaviors was associated with his mental illness.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, there's stigma associated with the homeless population.
yes,
And part of it, they said they're drug users, they're lazy, they don't want to work. You know, there's trauma behind homelessness.
exactly. That's exactly right. People don't know what these people's stories are. It could have been a bad divorce. It could have been someone who lost their
Hmm.
job. It could have been someone who lost a loved one. Like, you don't know
Yes,
what causes a person to be in a situation that they're in, but to make assumptions, to me, it's wrong. Because you never,
right.
yeah.
Agree with you.
Yeah. I know a lady who's very well off financially, and she always say to me, she said, Jesse, my frame of thought is I'm one step away from being homeless. She always said that. And she said, because I realize that in any event in my life can take a turn for the worse and put me in that situation. She
Hmm.
said, and that's why I'm glad God has given me a heart for people in general, especially the homeless people, because she had a son that was homeless that passed away.
Hmm.
But she really have a heart for the homeless population.
Yes,
I want to
yes.
talk a little bit more. Let's talk a little bit about you volunteering, because I know
Okay.
you've done some volunteer work and you currently doing volunteer work now. Name some of the volunteer work that you did in the past.
Well, currently I'm volunteering as America friend with America Messages, which has
Okay.
to do working with the unhoused community. So
Oh,
you're
okay.
assigned to an individual that's unhoused and provide 1 day a week contact, whether
Nice.
it's text or calling. So I do check-ins. How you're doing? How's your recovery? How's your housing situation? And just basically provide peer support to that individual. Um, and the other volunteer I do is Residents United Network, known as RUN by
Yeah.
Housing California. So basically, it's residents that live in affordable housing throughout the state of California. What we do is we do system advocacy to improve affordable housing. We're in an affordable housing crisis because of the
Yes.
cities, counties, and states failing to build affordable housing.
Yeah. I
And
agree.
some cities and counties don't want to build those type of housing because of the stigma associated with it,
Hmm.
especially supportive housing for the unhoused community when it's needed greatly.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome.
And I currently volunteer with Access California, which is a program of Cal Voices. This is my 5th year. Basically, we deal with the Mental Health Services Act uh, funding both at the local county level and then the state level. And
Yeah.
basically, we do system advocacy, making sure that it's being followed what the intent of the act was
Yeah.
meant
Yeah.
for.
What made you want to get involved with volunteering as much as you do with these different organizations? Like what caused your passion to be on the horizon to volunteer like this?
Part of volunteering is part of my personal medicine. It's part of my recovery, maintaining my mental health. And I
Awesome.
think that's the main reason why I volunteer. I enjoy it. You know, sometimes I do way too much. I
Yeah.
overburden myself because
Yeah.
I'm juggling from one place to another when it comes to the volunteers assignments or tasks.
Yeah. Do you feel like you have made a difference in someone's life through your hard working efforts regarding volunteering?
I do. I educate those that I work with, both volunteers and staff under those organizations, of programs and services and funding that's available so that we can help our mental health community. And for those that are peers or in the workforce, I'm a role model showing them If I can do it, they can do it.
That's right. That's absolutely
So
right.
they're taking that extra step. Well, maybe I'll go ahead and volunteer for a peer support group.
Yeah, yeah. I know you and I talked not too long ago. We talked about I get all type of text messages. I was texting everybody um happy Mother's Day. So all the mothers are texting me now. It's funny. But I know we kind of talked a little bit about the Mental Health Service Act and things like that. Do you feel that there need to be changes in that proposition in order to better serve the mental health community? Do you think, or you think it's all good now?
No, still needs to be changes. Our
Okay,
Mental Health Services Act has not been transformed
okay,
as what was meant to be to serve the SMI community, particularly those with psychosis,
okay.
outreach to children and adolescents, because studies have proven the younger you catch it, the better off they will be as an adult with
Yeah,
mental health.
yeah,
There's too many that fell through the cracks. Secondly, not meeting the needs of the SMI community, they're unhoused.
yeah,
Look at you see it everywhere out in the community throughout California. It's just unfortunate that it's still happening and it hasn't been fixed.
yeah, yeah. So what do you think is the first, so what do you think the first step to getting this thing taken care of? Do you think people need to show up at these um meetings and advocate? Do you think they need to sign a petition? Like what do you think the first step, need to be in order to start moving in that direction?
What we need to do is have consumers, our peers,
Yes.
and their families voicing the gaps in programs and services at the County Behavioral Health Commission or board meeting and at the Mental Health Services Oversight Accountability Commission state meetings.
Yeah.
They don't hear it, they're not going to propose based
Yeah.
on the need because part of the problem is it's not being client and family driven
Hmm.
with our services. It's basically being more driven to service providers in counties
Yeah.
than serving the community. And for those that have the contract, the numbers are too low that they're serving.
Yeah.
They can do better and they
Yeah.
need to do better.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you been involved with like any um OAC meetings, steering committee meetings, and voice this and things like that?
I have, and I've been going there monthly. I've been saying what I need to say. I use the broken record,
Mm.
reminding about the intent of the MHSA, just like
Yeah.
with CareCorps coming in California. The MHSA funding was not met for the purpose of CareCorps.
Yeah.
We need alternative programs like respite programs,
Hmm.
24-hour navigation center where the Allen House community can have a place to go to
Yeah.
instead of dying in the streets.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I'm definitely in 100% in agreement with that. Um, have you encouraged other peers to get out and, voice their opinion as well? Or because I mean, think some people have a hard time
Yes,
speaking out, or they don't want to because they don't want to like stir the pot, so to speak. But sometimes the pot needs to be stirred.
yes.
Do you agree?
We do need them, and there are those that can't do it because of their illness, especially
Yeah,
that's in my community, until they get themselves help, treated, and recovered
yeah,
into wellness.
yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yeah. You know what's interesting? Because I don't know why I just started thinking about this now. Even though a lot of these people are, um, are in charge of allocating certain funding to certain services and things like that, but it sounds like from what I'm hearing from you is they still need to be educated by the peers regarding the services and the funding for specific services and specific programs. Is that safe to say?
Yes, like I said, the plans, the 3-year plans, the 1-year plan needs to be client and family driven instead of a system driven program. That
Okay.
was the intent of the MHSA, to change the way the system was meant to change. And here we are 20 something years later under 4 different administrators.
Yeah. So when you talk about the system, like the system need to change, can you elaborate a little bit more? Because I know what you're talking about, but somebody who's watching this program may not know what that
Right.
actually.
Basically, I'm referring to the county behavioral health department throughout
Okay.
the state of California. There are those don't have the buy-in with the
Okay.
MHSA funding with the community planning process known as CPP. They
Okay.
don't like that. They don't want that. They still have the mentality that they want to do the old way. This
Okay.
is where I'm going to decide what programs and where money is going to go to what and what. Instead of meeting the needs of the community of gaps in programs and services, each county is different. Some
Yes.
have greater needs than others. Some have nothing, especially in
Yeah.
the rural communities.
Yes. That's absolutely true. You know, even though we are in the state of California, certain counties are different. Certain counties may benefit from different programs opposed to other counties, and maybe they may benefit from different fundings opposed to
Mhm.
other counties as well. So I think it is important that people from those individual counties get out, speak, let their voice be heard, and really communicate the need, because they are the ones who are down here in the trenches receiving services or dealing with whatever they're dealing with. They need to be heard, you know.
And especially now that California is going into a change with CalAIM, with
Mhm.
Medi-Cal, going into managed care. It's a whole shift. And
Yeah,
that's going to be new to consumers. They're used to Medi-Cal. The
yeah,
doctors do everything for them.
yeah,
Now, as a consumer, what you and I do with our health insurance, we have to do our legwork to
yeah,
get the referral to get this, to get the referral to get that,
yeah,
pre-approval for this.
yeah,
They don't know of this whole new process. And
yeah,
then with changes of the Mental Health Services Modernization Act, the
yeah,
state wants to change how they allocate the funding with the way it's currently being funded, reduced to 3 buckets
yeah,
instead of, I believe it's 7, if I remember correctly.
yeah, yeah.
And
So
then the care court.
yeah, yeah. So what do you think is going to happen to consumers who may not know how to navigate the system, or may be dependent on a support system to assist them in this area? Like, what do you think is going to happen to them? Because some of them, they're not going to know how to deal with all these changes, and as a matter of fact, it actually may be a trigger for them. You know,
Yes.
so how do you think they should get accustomed to dealing with all these changes that's coming?
I think they need to get education and training,
Yeah,
um, you know, from the various disability organization agencies. I
yeah,
think we all need to band up together and offer this type of service to
yeah,
educate them, advocate with them, and provide peer support to go along with them
yeah,
so
yeah,
that they're not scared and they
yeah,
learn the tools as we go along.
yeah, yeah. And I do agree with you. I think there needs to be a lot of education. I think there needs to be training on specific changes that's coming, you know, because like you said, they're used to things being one way, and it's been like this for many, many years. And all of a sudden now, boom, you got this big change, changes coming in different areas. I mean, it could really, it could do more harm than good, for lack of a better term, is what you
Yes,
could say.
yes. And those that are facing the issue with care court, they need to be aware that they have the right to call California Disability Rights to get free legal assistance relating to the rights associated with the care court issue, or Disability Education Defense Fund out of Berkeley. They serve statewide. So
Yeah,
they're a mental health advocacy organization.
nice, nice. Richard, where do you see mental health in 5 years? Meaning the services, uh, Proposition 63, like all of this. Where do you see the mental health field in 5 years?
Well, let's hope the CalAIM is going to be successful
Okay,
and transform in order to improve our behavioral health system for our mental health community. That's the key there. Because
yeah,
usually when you start a program, it doesn't start right.
right, right. There's a
Okay. So let's keep our fingers crossed with that one.
yeah,
Um, with the community planning process, that still needs to be part of the MHSA Modernization Act, and also to expand it
yeah,
because it needs to be consumer and family driven
driven.
in
Yes,
order for our behavioral system to be transformed.
yes,
Psychosis
absolutely.
needs to be taken care of sooner than later. When
Yes,
they're not, they're more severe and too late in their adulthood. And I
absolutely.
see some of them out there, unfortunately, young ones in their 20s, someone in their 60s, standing in the corner talking to themselves like they're talking to someone in front of them, but no one's there, but no fault to their own. It's their illness.
I agree. I agree 1%. Well, Richard, we have run out of time. I mean this with all sincerity. I really, really, really have enjoyed talking with you this morning. You shared so much, so much, so much, so much rich information. And I know that whoever see these two programs that we did today, I'm sure they're going to get some out of it. And also, this will not be our last time doing a show together, because I want to do something else with you too, because you have so much to share. You have so much knowledge and so much information and so much training that you have a lot to give out through this
Mhm.
platform. So thank you so much once again. And I'm definitely going to be in touch about doing something together in the near future.
You're more than welcome, Jesse. Glad to be part of it, and I'll be glad to come back if you need me to.
Thank you so much. And that's it for this edition of Mental Health Matters. If you enjoyed this particular show, if you would like to be a guest on our show, or if you would like a DVD copy of this show, please dial 916-366-4600. Thank you.